get this going. Right, a couple of weeks ago, I went to the closure of the Caravanserai in Canning Town, and it's an absolutely amazing project. It's one of those examples that Andrew mentioned of how the first essence of urban society is almost around a campfire. And we sat around a campfire that night, I think, at the closing event. And there was something quite basic, but also quite fundamental to life about how we create these places. We don't do them enough. And Cany's been absolutely amazing in developing this project. And she's going to tell us about some other projects he's working on. But Cany is a founder with Robert Sakula of Ash Sakula, a creative agency. And she's currently working on a theme park outside Hangzhou in China. And I don't know if you're going to tell us about that, Cany, but where's Cany? There you are, Cany. Thank you very much.
So I'm thrilled to be here to talk about the small bit of massive small. And the first time that I heard that those words put together and saw that green book, I was a massive fan, because it felt to me, it brought up lots of things. It brought up a little bit of revolutionary thinking, but it also brought up this feeling of patient knitting and thickening of networks and all of the things that you need to do when you're going to make changes to an enormously complex system, which is the city. And I don't really think that anybody probably in this room would disagree with the idea that urbanism as it's practiced at the moment in the UK is incredibly Luddite, very random. There's this idea that you could really hit a target with a single arrow, when in fact it's the kind of field in which experiment is vital. You're making big decisions, and you need to do it in partnership with people who live in those cities. You need to do it with some sort of, radical ideas, but also some sort of sense that you're working on a territory that has been worked on before. You're already on a realm. And Massive Small reminded me of this book that I'd read in 1990, and I was actually in India. It's a V.S. Nepal book called A Million Mutinies Now, and it was looking at how India was such a patchwork of peoples and ideas and territories. And as I was in the middle of this book, and then we were walking along the railway with a pushchair, me and my partner, trying to avoid some disturbances, and then we came across sort of about 100 people with red bandanas and sticks. It was the Ayodhya temple time, when everything in North India was a bit turned over with it. And that just brought back the feeling that this book really was, I suppose it just brought it home. And this idea that things can happen simultaneously in a place like India or London is very powerful. And if you can find some logic or some framing that brings people together in a common cause, even albeit they're coming from different directions, that's a network worth fighting for. So, not every country in the world does development like us. This is, in Japan, quite a famous example of the Ise-jingu shrine. And basically, local people knock down the finished shrine every 20 years and rebuild it. And it's a kind of article of faith that there is continuity in the culture and also in the architecture and the perfectibility, but also learning from the past to the future. I'm going to go quicker than this, don't worry, when we get into the thing. But just to say that Ash Sakula, we are kind of architects. We started as self-builders, but we've been working our ideas out through a practice for a very long time. I actually met my partner in 1981, so that kind of period of time. And quite recently, we decided that there was something so wrong that we needed to have another outlet for some R&D and some thinking. So we have something called adaptable neighbourhoods, and that argues for incrementalism and for an idea that the same kind of agile thinking that you get in software design needs to be applied to urbanism and architecture, where you don't sit in silos making decisions that don't have anything to do with each other, but instead you get the back end and the front end developers to try things out like a ping pong game in the same space, and that way everything speeds up and you get to better decisions. So this is sort of what we've been trying to do by cartooning over bits of the city that at the moment in the UK are considered sort of edge city and uninteresting and need to await comprehensive redevelopment, whilst in fact there are a load of businesses there and really interesting things that could happen and evolve. So when this competition came up, this was a place in Newham just before the Olympics. They ran a competition called Meanwhile London, and I, like lots of architects, read the conditions of the competition. Loads of responsibility, no way of winning it, no money at the end. Why would you go for it? But at the time I was a member of the Hub, and I used to really enjoy sort of getting out of that box of being an architect, and I had a lot of friends in the Agile Hub, and we decided to just go to the day where we'd do the little tour. And unfortunately, it's very it's very exciting, the idea of having a little patch of London that you can experiment with, and it doesn't really happen very often. So in the end, there was sort of a whole group of us that went for it, and cut a long story short, I was the only one that stayed in there because there was no money, but I sort of paid for a planning application, and had these two massive sites. I gave up one and kept this smaller site, which was still really big. They'd knocked down some housing, and it was just a sort of place of hardcore. We branded it the Caravanserai because we were interested in the idea that this could be a place of trading ideas and skills and slack materials. There was a kind of recession going on. It felt like the caravanserais that had been established as a place of refuge, but also of culture along the Silk Road, was a really nice way of playing with the fact that Canning Town had always been a little bit the arse end of London, but it was also a place where a lot of people moved through, and it still is. And so if we felt that if we just kept our jaws wide open, that people would come through this site and they would meet each other, and that we could do a modern caravanserai. So here it is. You can see the reason why the competition existed was because people were going to go to the Excel Centre to watch archery in the Olympics, and Newham were a bit embarrassed by the kind of destruction that you could see from the train line. And so we were the kind of arty things that were going to make it look interesting. And to a degree, that seemed like a fair trade. With the first sessions we had on site, we tried to get a sense of the territory with police tape to give a sense that this big outdoor space could also be a room. And then slowly we began to build sort of a village, and the idea of this village was the rules would be different from outside the hoarding. When you came in here, you would have a place where there would be children could play, but actually we would let them get splinters in their hands, and there'd be riskier things that they could do than in a normal playground. Parks, we found out from local people, are just the place you go to if you're depressed or you have a dog or a child, but you wouldn't choose to spend time in a park. But people started choosing to spend time with us. This is Tim Gill, who wrote a really great book called No Fear, about giving children more space in the city. Meals together. We had this idea that the gates were very important, because that was sort of the open gate to the north and the south. That was something you had in the caravanserais, where you'd have the trading route, and then if you wanted to stop for the night, you just veer off a little bit. And we found that a lot of people started walking through the caravanserai rather than down Silvertown Way, which is quite a desert, really. So those are our gates. And we also wanted to make it a place of multiplicity, where people would come for different reasons and maybe stay for different reasons, having met people who would come for, So we had this idea that we could have pets, a bit like this Japanese practice invented in Tokyo, where little tiny kiosks in the city could have were in the psychogeography of the city were quite important. So we decided we'd make this place with pets, and pets that were associated with different aspects of our four guilds, which was trading, growing, performing, and making. So this is one of the pets, and that it was a place of refuge or light in the desert, which is Canning Town. And also we wanted a place for where people could perform out of the rain, but we're trying to find ways in which we were using waste but also inventing new kinds of material. So this was, we invented this building, and it was 10 saris, 6 meters long, and those saris were polyester and from East Ham Market. Then they went to Inverness, and they got sandwiched into GRP and became this product that we'd invented at the Caravanserai. So this is, lots of things that happen there. There's, at the moment, the Rashad Salim is doing sculpture there. I'm going to just take another 1.5 minutes or something to say one of the ways that we explored this place was to invite other designers in. So Flitch was a competition that we ran to make a covered space, and we gave people the ingredients, and trying to show that recycled materials are strong was quite difficult. And we also used different ways of organising a workforce, so self-organised techniques. And this was a way that a French guy just invented tasks that you could give. He would walk around the site with a kind of white cloth over his arm and offer people a menu, and they could choose their tasks for the day. And that was how things happened. This was the space that came out of that competition, which has been amazing as just a gathering space. Doesn't matter what the weather is, it works as an urban barn. So anyway, if anybody's interested, if this is a kit of parts, I don't know, because I think every place has its own kit of parts. But I brought some descriptions of the spaces that we made and why we made them. And this just to kind of honour the idea of massive small. Just randomly, like it often happens, we were just invited to put a pitch in for a biodome, and we kind of won this competition in China, and then they didn't have the government decided, because of the stock market crash over the last few weeks, they actually have room for money for a biodome. So now we're presenting the idea of doing a series of caravanserais, which will be a collaboration with local makers in the area around Shanghai, and so we're hoping to prove them small to massive can work in that direction. Thanks.
Thank you very much.